Bruno. There he is, lovely. Now our Bruno, he keeps wandering around in the garden and he happens to come across our Flora. Would you like to be our Flora, our princess for me? Here we go. Do you two know each other? Yeah? Okay, artistic licence and all of that. There we go, you're going to love this, you two are. Here's our lovely Flora working in the gardens. And here's our lovely Prince Bruno wandering around in the gardens, and they see each other and they fall in love. Just depends, just depends. It's alright, it'll all finish fine and I promise I won't get you duped. So they fall in love. Now our King of Bohemia, he's not very pleased about this, so he says to his son, I don't want you to see that country maiden no more. No, 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 no. But does our Bruno listen to his dad? No. No, you are right. He didn't listen to his dad at all. And he still wandered off back into that garden, and he decided that what he needed to do, because our Flora was so beautiful, didn't you, eh? Yeah, you are. She's not nothing. He decided that he wanted to give her a present, but the only thing that he could see in our gardens were flowers. Fancy in there. So he decided he's going to pick her a rose. And just as he reaches out his hand, to pick the rose, she shouts, no! No. Just like that. She said, don't touch them roses because they are magic. But does our Bruno listen to our Flora? No. Typical boy, smelly and everything. He doesn't listen at all, and he picks that rose, and he immediately, and don't do this because the floor's a bit hard, he falls down into the sleep of death. Oh.
Thank God.
Poor Bruno, eh? Serves you right, really, if you're not listening, doesn't it, eh? Eh? Yeah. So he's in the sleep of death. Now our king, he's quite sad about this, and he calls everyone to try and get him woken up. He calls the best physicians in the world, and nothing gets the boy to wake up. So he calls upon our old friend Dot here, our old friend WWW.
Dot.
That's right, yes. Our wisest woman in the whole wide world, he calls her because coincidentally he knows her, like happens in these stories. And he says, dear old wisest woman in the world, how can I get my son to wake up? Now our wisest woman, being wise as she is, spots that lovely necklace that our Flora is wearing and thinks, I know who this is, don't you? Clever you, aren't you, and everything. So she says, what needs to happen is our Flora here, and you don't need to do this bit, she needs to kiss our Bruno. And then, not only that, she needs to marry him as well, eh? Clever you. But our King of Bohemia, he is equally clever. So as soon as our dear old Flora here kisses our Bruno and he wakes up, the king gets all of his servants and slaves and soldiers and stuff, picks our Flora up and chucks her into the sea. Oh, Flora, eh? So she disappears off and ends up, and you're not going to believe this, you're really not going to believe this, she ends up back on the shores of Sicilia. Really? What a coincidence that is, isn't it, eh? Where she is found by our wisest woman in the whole wide world, who has now gone back home, see? And our wisest woman in the whole wide world, she takes our Flora up that topmost turret of the castle and hides her there, doesn't she? Yes. Good. Whereupon, our lovely Bruno, who is now awake and not in the sleep of death no more, he says that he will not rest until he finds his beautiful Flora. So off he jumps on his horse, probably, and goes trotting off to find her. He goes all round the world and he can't find her nowhere. And coincidentally, he finally ends up on the shores of... where he goes to visit our nasty evil king here, who's sitting there with very little on, covered in his ashes and his soot and everything, weeping away, weeping so much that he's got an entire pool of tears around his feet, didn't you? Serves you right and everything. I bet you get a really nasty cold, eh? So, he goes along to our king, and he thinks he's looking a bit sad, so he decides that he'd quite like him to tell him his story. So our king, he tells him all about how he lost his dear wife and his dear daughter through his own foolishness, didn't you? Yes, that's right. And after he's finished his tale, our dear old Bruno, he decides that he's going to tell the king his tale. So he tells the king how he's lost his beautiful Flora through his own father's foolishness, didn't you? Yes. And the pair of them, they sit there weeping and wailing away, don't you? Well, you had to go anyway. Yeah, lovely. And soon they are surrounded by pools and pools of tears, aren't you? Yeah. The silly pair. And along comes our dear old friend WWW. Yes, lovely. Well done. You're paying attention over there as well. She comes along and says, and you probably would say this because I probably would as well, you silly pair of idiots, didn't you? Yes. You need to think before you speak and act, didn't you? Yes. Exactly. So, she takes our dear king and our dear Bruno here up to the topmost turret of the castle, whereupon they discover the most amazing painting they have ever seen in their whole entire lives. And you did. Yes. Very good. You're paying attention and keeping up with everything, aren't you? You can come again this afternoon. So, here we have our beautiful, the most beautiful painting that they have ever seen. And it takes them aback, doesn't it? Like that. See? Because one of the beautiful ladies in the painting rather resembles his dear old wife who he thought was dead. And also the younger lady in the painting rather resembles our dear old Flora. You didn't know where she was, did you? No. And they're so amazed they stand there with their mouths hanging open. Very good. And at that moment the most amazing thing occurred. Because our painting, it came to life, which is lucky really, because you two have been wriggling around and everything. So our painting, it came to life, and our dear Queen was reunited with her dear, fairly grumpy husband. And our dear Flora was reunited with our lovely Prince Bruno like that, and then they then got married and everything. And once again, they lived their lives through sorrow and joy, but mainly through joy, didn't you? Hey? Give them a